Welcome back. Now, the #1 story of the week. The Pentagon's JEDI is dead. The Defense Department will try again to build an enterprise cloud capability with a different model this time. Emily Murphy's former administrator of the General Services Administration. Mark Forman is Executive Vice President for Enterprise Optimization and Transformation at Dynamic Integrated Services. He's former E-Gov administrator at the Office of Management and Budget and former Federal Chief Information Officer. Friends, welcome. It is good to see both of you today. Mark, I start with you. How do we move forward? How does the department move forward in building the cloud capability that it needs for warfighting?
Well, the drama's over. Stop the dramas. We can finally get past that, right? Look, there were infrastructure as a service cloud services that came to the forefront now more than 10 years ago. So we've got to move forward now in understanding what people call a catalog of IT services. And those you got to think of as products. So I think we've got to move forward with understanding what's the IT strategy? How does the creation of the IT services coming at a DoD-wide level support what each of the services departments and the different operating units, especially for the state, need?
As an outside observer, this is not coming from the Pentagon, this is coming from my brain, Mark, but it looks like we have now officially an Conus cloud strategy from the department. The department says it will release the Conus cloud strategy in the coming months and then let its new contract in October. Does that sound like a logical timeline to get all its ducks in order, Mark?
Well, it sounds really fast to me. You know, I will say they've got some really, really good people working in that cloud management office, between leadership coming from the Defense Digital Services, Walt Kaczynski, who actually worked with us in creating FASA as a detailee from DoD back when I was on the Hill. So I'm really impressed with the team they put together, and I'm very hopeful. But I think that's really ambitious. They've got to understand cloud services, and that means reaching out to your customers. And it's pretty fast for government to be able to do that in 3 or 4 months.
Emily, what should we look for in October in that RFI to signal the different path that the Pentagon's going to take this time?
I think they've been very clear they're going to go multiple award this time. And I think that's going to be a win for them, because unless you absolutely have a compelling need to go single award, that multiple award is going to de-risk the procurement. It's also going to mean that you have competing solutions and that it's going to keep price down. So I think that's going to be a winner. Also looking at a shorter term contract, 3 years is the base with 2 one-year options, so that you're going to have the ability to change and not be tied into one strategy for the next 10 years. Given how fast cloud's evolving, that really makes sense.
I wondered even, Emily, given, as you say, given how fast this technology is evolving, if 3 years isn't too long, can the department build on-ramps or off-ramps into that, even the 3-year contract, to give them options if the technology evolves?
They absolutely could, or they could also look to supplement it with something like GSA's pending cloud BPA, the work that they're doing on consumption-based IT, using other vehicles like the Air Force's Cloud One or C Army. Even the work that's happening with MilCloud 2.0 right now is very interesting from a procurement standpoint. So trying to find a suite of solutions rather than just one absolute contract answer.
Mark, Emily references MilCloud. I guess 3 years ago when this first came about, I had a conversation off the record with a very high level, at that time, DISA official, and I said, what was the dialogue like between you and the people building this contract? And that person said to me, they never asked me anything. Is that part of the problem here potentially, is that there are pieces of the department that should be talking to each other as they prepare this new deal?
I'm not sure it's part of the problem, but certainly part of the solution. The concept here really comes back to this concept that was in the book, The Goal. You've got to understand from an end-to-end perspective the flow that goes into determining what services the Defense Department and the different organizations within, not just for the state, but across the military departments need. To do that, you got outreach. There's so many cloud contracts underway. And I think what you end up seeing is they need a platform approach, not an infrastructure as a service approach.
Emily, one of the things that you pushed as GSA administrator was the fact we have these contracts already in place. Use these platforms that already exist instead of creating something new. Is there something that exists that at least the department could model this new JWCC after?
I think that absolutely. If you look at the DO's contract, it's actually a task order against Schedule 70 or the old Schedule 70. There's about $600 million a year going through Schedule 70 right now for cloud, and GSA is looking to expand that. They're also looking to expand it to offer a consumption-based model, which creates a whole lot more flexibility for the department if they wanted to use that as part of their solution. I don't think a commercial, like purely commercial civilian solution is going to be the ultimate answer for them, but it's part of the answer, or could be part of the answer.
What will you watch, Emily, as this unfolds in the coming months till we get to the next phase that the department promises in the fall?
I'm going to also be watching what's happening with the other RFIs in civilian space. For example, the GSA RFI that I mentioned, E-Gov's estimating that that's going to be about $1 billion a year worth of work. If DoD were to add any of their requirements to that purchase, that would, obviously up the amount of work that would be going through it. Also, would change the qualifications and how they're going to want to structure those on and off ramps for that DPA.
Mark Forman, what's on your mind as this unfolds in the coming months?
We used to talk about computer chaos when I was on the Hill. We're looking at cloud chaos in a lot of agencies. The question that has to be done at the DoD CIO level is, what is that catalog of services and how do you optimize that across the departments? Most of the contracts for cloud now have existed for years, and they all have different services. You might be able to get a few dollars of savings at the aggregate across DoD, but it's really marginal. I think the real issue here is, what is the architecture? What are the core IT services? What's the on-ramp, as you were discussing before, as these new services emerge? And what's the strategy?
Mark Forman, Emily Murphy, thanks very much for coming on. It's great to have both of you today.
Thanks so much, Francis.
Thank you, Francis.